Welcome to Developing Effective Team Norms. I'm Lorna. I'm lead learner and co-founder of Jigsaw Learning. One of our foundational beliefs in collaborative response is the importance of establishing structures and processes that guide the learning and the work of teams. One of those processes is establishing team norms. So why? Why do we need to establish team norms? We sometimes see schools who decide this is an unnecessary step and that adults in their building don't need to talk about how to behave. But we realize that a reason for establishing norms is much more about creating a safe place to take risks. And if each team member agrees on what that looks like, it fosters that psychological safety that encourages risk-taking and confidence in functioning of the team. So we establish team norms to determine how we treat each other, to be explicit about our expectations as a team, and to engage how we will engage in difficult topics, and then articulating how we'll respond when we don't agree with one another. Again, it just provides that idea around creating shared beliefs to ensure that everyone finds their team a safe place to be and that they're not going to come across that feeling of a loss of confidence or perhaps the embarrassment or rejection of having shared ideas and been turned away or turned down. This really is about establishing how we're going to engage as a team so that everyone can feel confident in the collaboration that they're engaging in. So what I'd like to do for you now is to be able to walk through 6 steps in how you create those shared norms with your teams. And that starts with the step of identifying individual norms that are important to you. So you have your staff together, you give them lots of sticky notes, and on those sticky notes, you ask your individuals, so each person individually has their own sticky note where they record 3 to 5 statements that they feel are personally important for them to be able to have in order to engage effectively with the team. Once your individuals have written down their statements, then you have them step 2, jump into a partner consolidation. So this is about being able to partner with another person in the room. And with that other person, you review the norms that you have articulated as for yourself personally, and then you start to look at where are the common themes between the two, where are their unique differences. And in doing that, being able to create 4 new norms as a partnership, but making sure that both of you agree what should be recorded in those 4 norms going forward. Step number 3 is about being able to bring 2 groups together. So now you've got 2 groups of 2 coming together in a group of 4. And again, following the same process of identifying the norms that you have created as a partnership, and then looking for, again, those common threads, those ideas that are consistent. And of course, there may be some language differences, but what are the key ideas that are surfacing out of those 4 sets of norms, really? And then being able to combine them again so that you have a list of 4 norms on a new note card. Now, depending on how big your teams are, you may need to do this step again, creating another combined group, creating another opportunity to be able to combine those norms. Be careful not to exceed 8 people. We know that when our groups get too large, then a certain number of people will step away from the process and not engage, or will not have their voice heard because the group is too large. So just be careful. You may need to do this a couple of times to make sure that you've got enough of the norms consolidated, just depending on how big your group is. Then the next stage is to have each of those larger groups be able to report back. And we have a template on our website that allows you to start to record those norms. And the idea here is that we have one group share a norm. And for any of the other large groups, if there is a norm that they also have on their page that really is similar, it may not have been identified specifically or exactly the same. Of course, that wordsmithing piece is challenging, but just to get those core ideas down and connecting them on this template. So alternate between groups so that everyone has a chance to be able to share those norms, and making sure that by the end of your time together, you have a list that compiles all of the ideas that are representative from the group. You want to make sure that there is agreement here. But that doesn't mean that you are going to spend lots of time on wordsmithing, because wordsmithing with a large group is almost impossible. So just making sure that there is agreement that, yes, my norms are represented here, and I can move forward, and I can adhere to the norms that we have listed on our page. Step number 5 is to be able to have a small group of volunteers who would come together to really refine, combine, and then engage in that wordsmithing, so that you end up with 8 to 10 norms that really describe what the group had been articulating as a large whole. And then we still want to be able to bring those norms back to the large group so that they get a chance to be able to review them and to confirm them. And you want them to be able to have the opportunity to say, actually, I think there's something missed. There was a piece that we talked about around this specific area. I think it's missed. So making sure that you have an opportunity to engage in that back and forth, and then again, finally coming on to the agreement that this set of norms are the norms that we are going to move forward with and we are going to adhere to. And then finally, your next consideration is really about how do we use those norms. So developing them is one thing. Being able to really make them come to life is another. So the first simple step is to be able to make them visible throughout your team meeting times and throughout your building. So you create posters. You might make sure that those agendas are the norms are on the top of the agenda. You might create table stands where your meeting room is, but always being able to reference them and to have them visually represented within your meetings. And always coming back to them, or always having the opportunity to come back to them. And even further to that is at every team meeting, being able to highlight one of those norms and to focus in on it in terms of some active engagement that brings those norms to life. So an example of that would be one of our norms is about active engagement in the meeting. And so we are all actively engaged in the work that we're doing. And so you might say to the team, if that's one of our norms, what we'd like you to be able to do is to keep a checklist right beside you. And each time that you kind of wander away, put a check mark there. And then at the end of the meeting, to have everyone self-reflect on how often did your mind wander from the engagement of the team and from the work of the team. And being able to work toward reducing that number each time that you come together. So that's just one simple example. So thank you so much for listening. We have a number of resources on our website. Please check that out. We have a process for establishing team norms on the website, and it really walks you through the same process that I just shared with you today. Thanks so much for listening. Take care.